So the last episode featured Daniel Bath, talking about music for the many and his Daniel Bath trio and what have you. And then he started talking about Lucy Illingworth.
And it was so remarkable. It just deserved its own episode.
And that's coming up in a moment or two. We first saw Lucy on Facebook pages, Todd Chatterlatt and Daniel's Facebook page. I'm just absolutely astonished. Yeah. And Daniel, who's a well-known piano teacher, is also astonished.
Yeah, as were the sort of experts who you could see on the YouTube video.
Yes.
Listening to her initial.
So what was that TV programme she went on?
It was called The Piano. Mm. It's hosted by, I was going to say Davina McCall, because she's kind of taken over from her, Claudia Winkleman.
Davina used to be on everything. Now Claudia's on everything.
Deservedly so. And she did her initial audition, if that's what you call it, at Leeds Station, where there was a piano where anybody could play it, and there were people from Channel 4 listening to see if there was any stars on there. And she just blew everybody away. Mm-hmm. She's blind and has learning difficulties.
Severe learning difficulties.
Very severe, yeah. You know, people are just amazed. She's 14 now, and Daniel's been teaching her since she was 4. So if you haven't seen The Piano, it's worth watching anyway.
I think it's on YouTube.
But look out for Lucy's performances.
Yeah, it'll be on YouTube. Whatever the Channel 4 Watch It Again thing is.
Yes, yeah.
All 4, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. We're good on our media, aren't we?
Yes. Yes. Anyway, so this is Daniel talking about Lucy, and it will be followed by Lucy performing Debussy at the Royal Albert Hall. Talking about teaching, your face got well known on television with Lucy Illingworth.
Yeah, well, I teach. Lucy, I've known her for ages, since she was really like 4 years old. She's a fascinating musician. She's really, well, as everyone can see, you know, she's very, very good at playing the piano. But she's a really fascinating person. She's completely blind, and I teach quite a few blind children and visually impaired children, because I work for Amber Trust, which is a charity that provides music education for blind children. It's a bit like what Music for the Many does, to be honest.
Oh, is it specifically? But I mean, to be honest, I've only heard of the Amber Trust in connection with Lucy. I don't know anything else about it.
It's a national organisation, and it's particularly providing lessons for blind children and visually impaired children. And I have a few students. I have 6 students that I teach through that in around about West Yorkshire. And Lucy was the first student I had. In fact, she's the reason I got in touch with Amber Trust, because they recommended to the school that they should really get her a piano teacher when she was in nursery, at primary school, because they'd sort of noticed that she was, the musical toys that they had. It was in a special school, and because she has some quite serious learning difficulties, they noticed in the musical toys she was like playing, recognisable melodies rather than just throwing them across the room. And so they said, "Oh goodness me, how does she do that?" So they got in touch with Amber Trust, and then they assessed her, and then they said to get her a piano teacher. And so that's how. In fact, the reason that the person who put me in touch with Lucy was actually Kevin Rivette, who runs the Pennine Guitar Centre on Water Street.
Oh, right.
Because he was my boss when I worked for Calderdale Music Service. It was a long time ago now. And he sort of said, when they went to him, and he said to me, "Well, you're the person to do this," and I couldn't take it on at that point. I didn't have capacity to take on any more work. And so I said, well, I can't really fit it in. And he said, all right. And then and then he came back to me a few weeks later. Still haven't found anyone to teach. Said, no, I've really, Kevin, I'm too busy. and then again, a few months later, he said, still haven't found it. All right.
You're not getting out of this one either.
So I went to see. I said, oh, I go, and he was just. It was the most incredible experience. Meeting her the first time. Just the amount of understanding she had, and she was only 4 years old. And she was, like a baby, really, because she was quite little, and had other, sorts of difficulties. But yeah, it was just amazing. She could play stuff, and by that point, she'd sort of worked out how to, harmonise melodies and things. But with these tiny hands, so she didn't have any technique, like using your fingers. But she would just because her hands were tight, she'd just play with her whole hand like that. And, she's no good. If you're listening to the podcast, you can't see me demonstrating.
We can hear you hitting the table.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, it was. So then it was just a matter of. I mean, she knew loads of music. She knew because her mum, because a lot of blind children find it difficult to sleep at night because obviously you don't appreciate the difference between light and dark. You can't see.
Yeah.
So she. So her mum would put on classic FM during the night because she thought that was kind of a nice relaxing.
Right.
And so all the time, Lucy was not going to sleep. She was just listening and absorbing all this sort of classical works. So she loved. Still just loved Chopin and Bach. Bach's her favourite. She loves J.S. Bach. So she learned all this music. So she would do something like she'd sort of with her hands going da 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 da, and I was like, oh, she's playing the Grieg piano concerto. Okay, right. So then I gradually would sort of train her fingers to be able to press the right keys.
She could hear it,
yeah,
and then really transfer that into actions with her hands.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was, and because she knew the piano so well, because she knew, because it's like, I suppose, if the whole navigating the world is a real challenge, just being able to walk across a room without crashing into things, if that's a real challenge, then if you can sit at the piano and you know exactly where everything is, and it's got a real order to it. And it's and you can communicate through it. And she really held on to that, and so she knew straight away, where all the sounds were that she needed. And it's interesting actually when she sits down at the piano. When you see a blind musician, I mean, the most famous one was Stevie Wonder. He'll always sit there. He'll always sort of press a few notes just to work out, get his bearings. But Lucy doesn't do that. She just sort of sits down and just starts playing straight. She somehow has got this. I don't know how she does it. She sort of just puts the hands down and launches into some Bach or something. So yeah, it's just like it's her world really, the piano, and that's how she communicates. And because her language is really sort of underdeveloped, and she's used to be quite non-verbal for a while. It's better now. She's learning.
Yeah. So was she about 13 or so now?
She is, let's get this right, she's 14. I have to check this, I can't remember if she just turned 15 or she's 14, 15, 14. I should know that, shouldn't I? One of those two numbers.
It's settled on early teens.
I know, yeah.
Mid-teens.
Mid-teens.
Yeah, so she's great, and she's like a, she's much taller and everything. When she when I first used to teach her, she would sit on my lap because she was like a baby. She was so tiny, and she found it quite difficult to regulate her responses to what I was doing. And she was very suspicious of me at first because it was someone coming into this thing which was her world, it's the piano. So she'd sort of be quite, we had a lot of wrestling in the first few months of learning, but then she got used to me and realised that actually I could help her to realise what she wanted to do, and I could sort of play things that she enjoyed listening to. So it sort of gradually built up a relationship.
Won it around a bit.
She stopped punching
That's
me in the face every
fantastic.
time I tried to play the piano.
And of course, she's gone on to win the television thing.
Yeah, the piano, which is just a new series of that is starting this coming Sunday. This series 2, because it was such a success. So yes, I love productions, and Channel 4 making a lot of money out of it.
Somebody's making money out of your work.
Yeah,
maybe they could slide some your way for music for the many.
Good idea.
Good
Yes,
cause.
yes,
right,
get something out of them.
We should do. Yeah. No, and it was great. I mean, the main thing with that really was being able to show for me, the main thing has been able to show what happens when you give a child opportunity to learn. Because Lucy, it's like, ticks so many of the boxes for someone who can't access stuff, and in so many ways. And if it wasn't just for that kind of, well, if it wasn't for Kevin Rivette at the Penna Guitars, he said, that sort of finding me who had the kind of skills to be able to work with someone with Lucy's needs, and then get her playing these things properly. If it wasn't for those connections and the Amber Trust funding, then she wouldn't have been able to do it. She wouldn't have. She wouldn't be there playing Beethoven or Chopin now. So it's great for that program, giving that wide exposure, and then showing, from that, you have to say, well, there's thousands of Lucys in our communities, and that's what we find all the time in Music for the Many. Every now and again, someone just in Todmorden will pop as a child who's just got this real, not even necessarily that they're really, really good at music, but just it's something which is like becomes the main thing for them, which just means everything to them. And where, like, we have a lot of times we'll have a child who struggles with everything at school and is in trouble a lot. And I'm not going to mention any names, because obviously that's, so and they would, and then it's just, they just find things difficult, and then they find this thing where they can really relax and do something which just gets praise all the time, and which everyone else can appreciate. So that's it's the power of music education, and that's something that's, for most children, it's actually missing.
Yeah, I mean, it's also it fits with our idea for this podcast as well, because we think everybody's good at something.
Yeah,
and it's proven true, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, she's perhaps an extreme in that. There are things she's very can't do, and there's something she can do amazingly. Yeah. I mean, I admire that anyway, because I have. If I have a disability, it's music. I can't do it.
Right.
I'm pretty good at getting other people to do it.
Well, I mean, you've been surrounded by music, haven't you?
Yes. Yes.
Right.
I can't do it myself.
Right.
I've tried umpteen instruments. I started off with 6 strings, went down to 4 strings on a bass guitar, ended up trying to blow into a didgeridoo.
You've given it a go.
I've given it a go, but you can't be good at everything. Yeah.
Well, I think you taught our daughter Magdalene at BIM.
Yes.
And that was a fantastic, because that was I always recommend that course to people who want to go and do music in higher education, because it's because I noticed that she was learning all the useful things, like what you actually, I did a music degree, and it was great, we learned to analyze Schoenberg and how to write fugues and that kind of thing. But if you actually want to have a career in music, then you've got to learn how to write a contract, how to
That's when that was
find
what
an
I
agent.
did. I could never teach her how to play an instrument, but I could show her how to organise and get gigs.
Yeah, that's it. That's what you need. I mean, that's what you need if you want to make a living out of it.
Yeah.
And how to, insurance and that kind of thing.
Yes.
So we're very grateful for that.
Oh, well, that's
Excellent.
nice, isn't it?
Good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thanks a lot, Daniel.
Thank you.
Daniel Bath. That was really
Yeah,
interesting.
it was.
Yes. And well, go and put the kettle on again.